Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another iteration of Let's Take Five. This is the podcast where we look at 5 films from one of the greats of cinema, and we break them down and kind of discuss why they are so great. In this section, we went a very poppy route, or kinda, with Steven Spielberg. The previous people we covered on the podcast: Robert De Niro, Akira Kurosawa, Billy Wilder,
Kate Blanchett. Our most recent one.
I was going to get there. I was so afraid of saying Kate Winslet again because I kept doing that. And now we're doing Steven Spielberg and the final film on the countdown, which is Munich. This is the 5th film we are talking about. My name's Ray Martindale.
I'm Austin Luker.
And here we are, Munich. So Austin is kind of interesting for Austin, I think, maybe a little bit because... Okay, there were some agreed-upon things with the Spielberg one, but the 2 films that I definitely wanted to do, that I really pushed for, were Minority Report and Munich, that aren't necessarily what you might call in Spielberg's...
The obvious camp.
The obvious camp, right? But both of those, I think, are great movies, and this is taken really fresh here. This is kind of a fresh cut of this, because, Austin, you watched the movie today.
I finished about 15 minutes ago.
Yes, so I guess, and this is the coldest I've gone into gauging how you actually felt about a film since you saw it so recently. I know you'd seen it before, but this update of it. So, what did you think?
Right, I saw it in theaters. So that was in 2005, 2016 now, and I think this film was great. Yeah. I think because last week I was a bit negative towards Minority Report. Still enjoyed it, but. Not as canon-worthy as the other ones. This one, I think, accomplished what he was trying to do in Minority Report. He made a dark story that's full of emotion, but he still kind of had these entertaining elements of it that made it... Fun is the wrong word, but made it entertaining to watch, and then made you also think as well. Mm-hmm. Minority Report, for me, went too much into some campy territories. This one never goes into campy territories. No. But it is him doing a spy film in a really interesting way. By weird coincidence, I happened to watch episode 2 of The Night Manager last night, which is that new miniseries starring Tom Hiddleston that's based off a John le Carré novel. John le Carré made Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, Spy Came from the Cold, and unlike the Bond films, those spy films are about how emotionally devastating it is to be a spy, how you live in paranoia and fear and destruction, and... Those are very popular films as well, but Munich is almost the best example of that kind of spy subgenre. Mm-hmm. It begins with a very cinematic look at this assassination process. Explosions, by necessary, are very cinematic ways to kill somebody. It's huge, kind of like a set piece. But then it just kind of keeps getting worse and worse, these characters. They kind of go down this rabbit hole to the point where they're killing this unarmed woman. And it's just a couple shots, and it's no longer a cinematic explosion. It's a very personal act that they have to do, and that arc is incredible.
And that kill needed to be personal.
Yeah. So
it's interesting. It goes about it. Okay, so we're 3 minutes and 30 seconds into this, and we haven't mentioned that this is. No, I'm just saying that it's interesting because I didn't think it would go this long. I just thought this would come pouring out, but this is Spielberg's Jewish filmmaker's film about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. I mean, that's obviously a big deal for him personally.
Oh, sure.
And it's just funny that even though the joke is that we're only 3 minutes and a half into this podcast and didn't come out yet because it is a spy movie. It is a spy movie too. You learn it, and it's a team. It's a recruitment almost type of movie as well.
Well, it's about the Jewish culture in a very different way than it was about Schindler's List. It's kind of about the day-to-day Jewish norms and kind of their philosophy about certain things. And also, this is Spielberg's most political film because it's also about the war in Iraq.
Yeah.
I mean, the last 5 minutes, I remember at the time I thought it was too heavy-handed, but now being more removed from it, it actually is more of like a snapshot commentary that's a bit more effective. It's kind of questioning the actions we do with less information than we have.
Yeah, that's interesting too. I didn't even think about it from that perspective. I was just focused more on the obvious,
absolutely,
the no-win situation of endless war in Middle East, but particular in Israeli-Palestinian conflict because there is no right response.
Right.
It's the question of, okay, so we get killed, so now we're going to kill you more, or and then you're going to kill us because we did that, so that's bad. Or we could just be killed and not do anything. That's not really an answer either. So it is, and I don't think the movie necessarily takes a side so much as to just say that, no, I mean, this conflict is never ending. That's just it.
Well, that's the brilliance about Spielberg films, that he takes all these issues and he makes them personal. Mm-hmm. And watching it this time, I kind of am thrilled we are ending our Spielberg Five on this film, because that's what he does with every film. No matter the genre of the film, if he goes into fantasy territories in Hook or Indiana Jones or an Alien story that he's done a couple times, they're always rooted in real human emotions. Even though I don't like Hook, Hook is about relationships between father and sons. Mm-hmm. Schindler's List is about the people. It's always about the people. It's not about battles being organized. And Munich is 100% about the people, and it makes the revenge story, because often revenge stories for me are very cold, because I'm not essentially a vengeful person. You watch big action films like, oh, they did this to me, I need to do this to them. Mm-hmm. This one made such a strong argument at the beginning of why they have to do this, and then just kept brilliantly arcing it towards cynicism. So when they get to a point, like you're describing about the kind of no-win situation, that woman says, like, we now have a place here. Mm-hmm. They don't. At that point, the questioning of the mission is so strong that line would have been so heartwarming at the beginning is now so cold at the end, because you're like, what did we really accomplish? Yeah. It's such an impressive movie to humanize with these men.
Well, and also, at the very end, you have the Jeffrey Rush character sort of sets up this mission, talking with him about the thing. What was it? Okay, so the debrief here is, what was it all for? And the answer is, it was for Israel, which is a country he's not even living in right now. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the film, he's like, come break bread with me because we're Jews, and it's written somewhere that we should do this. And he says no, and he walks away as if he turned his back on his country for not going back there.
Oh, that's not how I took it.
Okay, because I want to talk about
I think it could definitely be interpreted in that way. I took it as almost a debrief in their emotional states, where the way that Jeffrey Rush can keep doing what he's doing is he can't care about the people in many ways. Even though, like he's saying, this is a Jewish custom. This is really what we're fighting for. We should do this together. And he kind of looks at Eric Bana in the past hour or so of the pain he's kind of gone through, of just like how emotionally destroyed he is by doing all this. Jeffrey Rush can succeed in it because he doesn't take these dinners.
I think it's that. I do think it's that. I'm not, but there is something to be said about the fact that he is not going back to Israel.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the camera literally pans to a shot of New York, and you get an iconic shot of the World Trade Centers. This is America.
Yes,
and that's obviously pointed. So he did it for a home. He's not even. Yeah, he's not even going to be there.
And that shot is so brilliant, because at the beginning when they're talking, you see all the buildings behind them. And we've now been to so many locations throughout this film, but there's the number of buildings in the back of the shot. Like, you almost can't see sky. It's building over building over building. It's a beautiful, like, background. Mm-hmm. And it's not at all what you've seen. They're in a completely different place.
Yeah.
And to pan over to the Twin Towers and to say, we all live with this pain.
Yeah.
And we all dealt with these scary situations where we're asking people to be soldiers. Because I felt dumb. It took me a while. These guys are soldiers. I mean, they get to wear whatever they want at the beginning of the day, but they are facing the trauma of war on a ground level.
And that type of war where... I don't know the word I'm going for here, but that type of war that it's really ugly. I mean, this espionage, and it's more like murder and less like combat.
Yeah,
I guess is there's that, and that's, war situations. That type of stuff is inevitable, if not necessary. But you have that, and then I'd be interested to see. I mean, I'm not Jewish, but I wonder if there is some commentary here regarding a disassociation from Jews living outside of Israel and those that are living there and in the conflict, and if there was something there in regards to that as well. I don't know. I'd be interested. I mean, I'm spitballing here, but I'd be curious.
Well, the Jewish culture has such a brilliant affection for Israel in a way that some other people don't have.
Yeah, exactly.
I have German lineage, but I've never felt the strong compulsion to go visit Germany. I'd like to one day, but I love that in the Jewish faith they even allow paid plane trips for young people to go over there because it's that important. So I think that sort of geographical identity is essential throughout this film.
Yeah,
as well.
and it felt like in this fight for home and what home is, but at the same time, so they're fighting for Israel, which is their home. Palestinians are fighting for it too because it's Palestine.
Yeah.
So you also have that as well, and I felt like that was treated. I mean, we joked about earlier. It's like this is a Jewish revenge film, but it's treated fairly. I mean, the sides are presented. It never really damns one side over the other. I mean, we do follow the Jewish people and what these terrorists did to these Olympians in Munich is. I mean, they're fucking degenerates, pardon me, but that's that. But at the same time, there's still... But then it says, what makes you better, though?
Right.
It does pose that question. Okay, so we're going to go kill these guys that killed us specifically. And at first, in the beginning of the film does it brilliantly because you have this, let's let you get a revenge kick from it. And then, as the film progresses and you see the damage it does to them... questions start to arise. It's like, oh my God, let's just stop killing each other. Let's just stop killing each other. We're caught in this cycle, and this circle's not going to be broken. And it changes in a lot of ways. And you start to think differently even about the Munich massacre itself. I mean, at the end of the day, these people were killed, and that's unbelievably horrible, and these people were horrible people, but... killing them, and it's just going to keep going, right? And that's not to say that killing them isn't the right answer. It's just to say that, wow, this situation's really, really screwed up.
I think there's the best scene of the film, and it's just Spielberg at his best, is that telephone sequence. And Spielberg is not really an indulgent filmmaker. He's not one who keeps repeating shots, referencing his own kind of films. Except in this film, it can't be a coincidence that the little girl who picks up the phone and not the guy they're trying to kill is wearing a red coat.
Yeah.
I mean, and so to have that red coat imagery be so strongly associated with that little girl from Schindler's List, and have the plot enemy family be wearing this.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
It's really brilliant. So to set up the scene real fast, they put a bomb in the phone. They're hoping the guy answers the phone to blow it up. So they're waiting outside, but the little girl answers the phone, so they have to run and tell him to not. In a very Hitchcockian scene, right? Because it's silent.
It's so quiet, especially when you're on the ground and you're having them recognize. I mean, this is kind of early on what they're doing and such, and to see that the girl is the one picking up, and to have the guy run from the other phone and just sprint to try to save this girl is shocking. Because also before the guy even arrives to the car, to the guy with the trigger, the guy's hand is shaking because this is happening throughout most of the film. Every death hurts them. Yeah, and it keeps meaning something. They're not being super cool by they slowly pull it off. They're delaying what they have to do. Yeah, and it's so brilliant, and it's an incredible Hitchcock sequence.
Yeah, it is.
Not it's like Spielberg sequence.
Well, it's a Spielberg, but it feels it feels borrowed but brilliant. I guess
it's the tension on the screen because Hitchcock and Notorious had the bomb under the table, and we know it's there, but the characters don't. We know what this bomb's about to do, and not enough characters do.
Yeah, and that ends up the almost exact same scenario comes up later in the film with another bomb. The bombs in this movie are brilliant.
Yeah, it never felt repetitive.
No, and it's pointed. So they want to kill people with bombs because bombs sends a message that guns doesn't. They inevitably end up having to kill some people without bombs, but they use bombs being used in the movie as a point. And every time it's used, so the first bomb barely kills the guy, so they're worried that the bombs they're making aren't powerful enough. So the next one they build, they put under a guy's bed, after Eric Bana has a conversation with this guy on the balcony, just building the tension, and also now I have to know this person, before we blow him up. And then that bomb, it's too big, and that scene's insane.
Yeah.
Like the tension of that scene, the bomb going off, that scene's insane. It's so well done. You feel the bomb. You feel the bomb. I started getting freaked out because I knew what was coming watching it again, and I noticed I was slowly turning down my TV like way before it happened.
Right.
Because I knew what was gonna happen, and I didn't want to jump. So like I turned it down.
I always have that problem when I'm watching a film with someone who hasn't seen it before. Mm-hmm. So I know I want to turn on the volume. That's also like the biggest spoiler right now. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Watch out for the next 30 seconds.
But yeah, I mean, it's incredible.
Well, and I love that whenever a bomb goes off, Spielberg does a really interesting thing, which is, I mean, obviously for cinematic reasons, you need to kind of show the effect of the bomb, but he always kind of cuts to the outside, mm-hmm. and it's a wider shot to kind of show the impact of how far the bomb's reaching, mm-hmm. but you also see the rest of the city. You see the rest of the community. Mm-hmm. It's not a giant shot, but you recognize that this is happening at one point of a larger city filled with people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And now they're all going to be affected by this, because their neighbors got blown up.
Yeah.
They might have known that person, but a bomb went off in their home.
And that's why they want to use bombs.
Yeah.
At the core of it, they are sending a message, right?
They're not on a soldier's field. Mm-hmm. They're in people's homes. That's been the fear of so much of war lately.
Yeah, and that's what gets into the murder aspect of it versus to be honest, the terroristic aspect of it, other than just war.
Showing the Twin Towers is not a coincidence. I've been really fascinated lately about the directors who have been affected by post 9/11, mentality.
This was much closer. I mean, this was only 4 years after 9/11.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about, I think, in Minority Report, our discussion, but that was just a year after. No one really knew what they were thinking a year after, and I didn't. Yeah. We're all still processing it. But the films that came out just a few years after that are tangentially about the topic, are some of the most interesting films. And this is
which ones are you thinking of, just out of curiosity?
25th Hour was one that was right after. That was really good by Spike Lee. But I just watched his film Inside Man again, which is a super fun bank heist film.
Yeah, and you wouldn't know that Spike Lee did that film.
I know, really?
It's so bizarre.
But there's such a brilliant look at New York City in that movie of just... They make a point just to kind of show the depiction of how many minorities live in the city and how post 9/11 treatment has been affecting them. Yeah. Just in the middle of a heist film, as in this is a day-to-day activity. You're seeing, you get more direct ones like Hurt Locker and Xerox 30, but they're interesting depictions of post 9/11 filmmaking.
And odd love lettery ones like Gangs of New York.
Yeah,
it's kind of bizarre.
that was a year after, but also Scorsese wanted to make that for 20 years.
No, I know.
It was a weird.
It's the last shot of the film is the World Trade Center, and there was tribute stuff going on too in films. But yeah, I just thought that was bizarre. But yeah, this conflict is going to get to a point where, okay, we're blowing up bombs. You're right. It's not a coincidence. We're blowing up bombs in buildings. This is escalating. This is always going to escalate. And then those buildings in the background there are going to be gone one day because as a result of this escalation. Now, different ideologically. It wasn't specifically about Israel and Palestine, but it's still conflict in the Middle East, conflict abroad, terrorism, and it's all one and the same, really. I think that's almost kind of the point. Well, it's still murder.
There's murder and an acceptance of it. Something that I almost feel it's Spielberg wrestling with this idea throughout his own film is one of the assassins, the guy who actually makes the bombs, is a toy maker. Mm-hmm. And they go, you're a toy maker.
Yeah.
And he goes, toy bombs, same thing. Yeah. And I was thinking it's a funny line, but also isn't that kind of the movie? It's Spielberg going, there's entertainment populism, and then there's tragedy.
Yeah.
Toys and bombs are way too similar. And, I think, Schindler's List is still his masterpiece, and he kind of purposely tries to avoid entertaining sequences. But I think this is where he really kind of shows that you can make a film matter through incredible use of cinema. It can be done on a personal level of recognizing what these three men are in a boat in Jaws, or recognizing that there are really gray political areas that we're still wrestling with. And you can...
And meanwhile, while we wrestle, people die.
Right.
And because honestly, I mean, at the core, and I don't know if the movie does this, but this is what I glean from it, and what I've sort of surmised is that there isn't an answer, actually, quite frankly.
No.
That's what it is, and I feel like, and that is so unsatisfying, and I understand that's so unsatisfying, but that is it, because we're killing people. We don't even know we're in a spiral of death. Okay, but to not go down that rabbit hole is to get killed yourself. So, like, do I? If I say I won't kill these people because I don't even know why I'm killing them, then does that mean I'm a traitor? Because that means someone I know, one of my brothers, one of my people gets killed. Mm-hmm. So then I killed because that, to stop that, but then they killed me because of that, and that keeps going. There is no answer, because I can't say that them going after to kill these Munich people are the people that play in Munich is wrong for them to do that. Sure, that's their right, but at the end of the day, they're not going to be any more satisfied from it. And I think that's the point. It's like at the very end of the film, they tell you ultimately 9 of the 11 people that planned the Munich massacre were eventually killed.
I thought that was such a... Oh, go on.
Well, I was going to say... Grats.
Yeah.
And that's the feeling you're kind of left with. Like, I don't feel good about it. I mean, okay, sure, fine. Like, I can kind of go, okay, I'm happy they're dead as this siren goes by outside. Apologize for that. But I could be like, okay, I'm happy that they're dead. I'm happy that was done. But at the same time, I don't feel any more satisfied from that.
I think the film is brilliant about that. I think the film is really brilliant about that because, at the beginning of the film they say these are the guys we're going with. They're really putting down the photos on the table. And so I just kept assuming it's going to be more of a checklist movie. There are those kind of films that kind of go like, okay, we have to get the 3 pieces of the puzzle before we get our national treasure. That kind of thing. But it's never that. They kind of never keep saying, all right, 4 to 11 guys, like a big chalkboard saying we've got check marks and whatnot. It's not that because it feels like this will never end.
Yeah.
It is that mentality of like, we're just going to keep doing this. It's not like 3 left. It's
and no one's necessarily saying you shouldn't either, because that's not an answer either.
Right.
Because ultimately, at the same time, some of these people have to pay for what they did, and vice versa. Everyone pays. But that's just it. That's essentially what it is about, right? I mean. The answer is there is no answer. That is actually it.
And the conversation in the end with Jeffrey Rush was really brilliant as well. I'm going to keep saying brilliant because I really like this movie.
Yeah.
I'm going to use one adjective forever.
I based on our podcast history, I think every movie is the greatest film ever made. So
we have a really good run.
I know. It's like every time I say this is probably the greatest, I always do that.
Well, we're looking for the best of the best, essentially.
Yeah.
And going back to this scene, Eric Bana is kind of really questioning him, saying like, why did we get this one guy? And Jeffrey Rush just kind of keeps, like, very nonchalant going, he was going to do this. You did a good job. Mm-hmm. So, like, it's...
Or he did this.
Yeah, he did this, and he's going to do more, and, you did a good thing. It's the idea of, like, it just has to be done.
Yeah.
And we really prefer it to be someone like you on the field, because you're going to have a breaking point, so we're going to be somewhere nice, but we're going to get someone else to do this, because it's a task that can only be done for so long before your soul is wrecked.
Yeah. And by the end of the film, he's worried about his own government, even.
Yeah, the paranoia, which
is the last 30 minutes, is basically all that, right?
And Spielberg is the master of the camera, and he can make everything look so creepy if he wants to. Mm-hmm. And I mean, just when I think he's jogging or whatever, or walking, and that car just like slowly puts down its window, you know what's going on?
Yeah.
But now I'm freaked out about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good, and I think Eric Bana, also in the heart of this, really kind of captures the arc Spielberg's going for of like, here's someone with great pride for his nation to, I am broken and scared and questioning all of this.
Yeah, because now he's got a family. His wife was pregnant when he left on this mission. Now his child's like 2 years old, or a year old, or something like that. Older. He's missed a chunk of the early years.
That phone call wrecked me when he was calling the the baby saying, "This is my voice. I want you to hear my voice." And like, oh, you're so removed.
And he doesn't know if he's ever going to see it.
Yeah.
So he wants her to have a memory of him, which is fleeting and not going to happen. But if he dies at that point, but it's just, I don't know. It's just, and then to go on that unsatisfying track, the guy they're chasing this whole time, the chief guy, the chief bad guy, his name is Salame, which is funny. I'm sorry. I chuckle at that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a food. Okay, like to me. So, and they're saying salami really seriously. And I don't mean offense by that, but it is funny. It's, if my name was Hot Dog, I would laugh too.
Yeah.
But so they're chasing Salame, and they're going to kill him. And there's finally this scene where we're going to kill him. They got a sniper rifle pointed on him, and they're going to shoot him. They're going to kill him. Daniel Craig and Eric Bana. And someone spots them, which I believe as a kid earlier they spared.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think it is. At least looks a lot like him. So he spots them, they turn around, they end up shooting that kid instead. Their cover's blown, they have to run, yada, yada, yada. So the main person they're after to kill, they don't even get. So, how unsatisfying is that?
Yeah.
I mean, really, that's what I got from it the most. You get what I'm saying, right?
No, absolutely. And it goes with the genre and it goes with the theme so well, because we would be really confused if Bond didn't meet Goldfinger.
Yeah.
If he spent the whole film trying to get him and go oh, I got away.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah.
Because that's why those films are the dream idea of what we want a spy film to be. Mm-hmm. Very clear good guy, very clear bad guy. Spielberg's done that. We talked about Last Crusade. Mm-hmm. Nazis in that film are not the Nazis of Schindler's List.
Yeah, Nazis are all bad.
Yeah, these are faceless guys who need to be dropped down because they're Nazis.
Yeah, exactly.
But this one, it's not that at all. And Spielberg is so brilliant at the different ways he can depict this. I mean, yeah, his villains are always way more complex than you would think.
Yeah, and this Munich, I think, complete rejection of that pop myth that is Spielberg. Because Munich, I think this. So 2005 was a great year for films, and I always want to end and go into this. So I'm going to try not to turn this into a rant. Okay, but...
Yeah, I hate our half-hour podcast to look like a rant.
Yeah, but, okay, so 2005, two very good movies weren't nominated, and that was Cinderella Man, and I do like Constant Gardener, wasn't nominated. I know that film...
John le Carré, the same spy guy we're talking about.
And that film annoys some people, but I like the movie a lot.
Me too.
And I like Cinderella Man a lot. It probably has the worst title ever, but it's a good film. And those films weren't nominated, but there were really good films nominated that year. Capote was one, Good Night and Good Luck, Munich was up.
I really like those.
Yeah, Brokeback Mountain is a good movie. I don't think it's great, but it's a good movie.
I'm looking forward to revisiting
Yeah, me too. I think Heath Ledger's incredible in that movie, and I always talk about that, but I think it's okay.
I love the score.
Yeah, the score is fantastic. John Williams' score in this, in Munich, once again, unbelievable. I remember him playing it at the Academy Awards. He played it. He picked it. But Crash won Best Picture this year. Crash.
Okay.
Crash is the worst movie to win that award that I've ever seen. Okay, that I've seen.
Right.
I know I can go back.
It's in my worst five, and I've seen them all. And
it's just so funny that this year they have Munich, which is a film about a world tragedy that many lives have been lost on, and it's shown in this very fair way, and there's no meddling. It doesn't screw with facts or history or whatever. I mean, I understand that a lot of this is fiction, but it's honest about the soul of this conflict, and it presents it this way, this very harsh reality that we're still living with today about hatred and the way cultures just hate each other, and they're raised to feel this way, to be enemies, yada, yada, yada. And you have another film that year that is Crash, which looks at a very, very, very tough topic, okay, that needs to be treated with the same amount of care and majesty and trust and realism, like racism, that Crash does, and it's a disaster. It's almost exploitative because it
is.
Yeah, because everything is cookie cutter. Everything is, okay, racism is bad, but it doesn't actually want to explore those themes. It just wants to present them in a black and white way, so at the very end of the film we can feel better about ourselves and be magically not racist. It's such a fake. It's fake. The film is trash.
It's like it's looking at racism, and the only thing it's saying is these words are offensive. It's not like, how do we get there? How are people treated on a day-to-day basis? How are the institutions we have affecting people in a negative way?
Exactly.
It's just saying, ooh, that's a bad word. Don't say that bad word. You're less racist now.
Yes. Don't be mean to the person fixing your door because they're a Mexican, because that's not fair, because they're just a different race than you. It's like, what? What? Okay. I wasn't feeling that way anyway.
Right.
Why don't we actually? It's not a real issue. It's a fantasy film. It's garbage. It's absolute garbage.
Well, there's so many depictions of Hollywood being this kind of liberal message town, and maybe 2005 is the funniest example of that Oscar-wise, because you have this film, which is a nuanced take on the war in Iraq and the Israeli-Palestine conflict. Mm-hmm. We have Good Night, Good Luck, which is a nuanced take of how journalism is done. We have a Capote, a nuanced take on capital punishment. Mm-hmm. We have Brokeback Mountain, which is a nuanced take on how negative feels of homosexuality is affecting people at the core. And we have a stupid film about racism.
Yeah, exactly.
They picked the wrong one.
Yeah, I mean, it just baffled me. So
this film lost Best Picture and Best Editing to Crash.
Yeah.
And then lost Director, Screenplay, and Score to Brokeback Mountain.
Paul Haggis is the writer, was the writer of Crash.
Writer and director.
And he said afterwards, if you think I'm lying about cookie cutterness, he literally admitted afterwards he wrote the film to win the Best Picture Oscar. He wrote it to the formula. That's literally what he did. Mm-hmm. Munich, it was my Best Picture that year. I know Capote is yours, right?
I would vote for Capote.
Either way, though, both of those films infinitely better. Infinitely better. So
Absolutely.
I just had to I had to vent on that. And there's times when they get it right. There's times when they get it wrong.
Yeah.
I think that Munich would be a much better choice, because I think history-wise and looking back on film-wise, 20, 30, 40 years from now, Munich is going to be the better film.
Well, I think this is a good way to seg towards, because this is part 5 of our Spielberg 5, which means next Wednesday we're going to have our wrap-up episode with a nice guest we're going to have. But we can talk about on that episode, are we ignoring how good Spielberg still is? Because Munich is a really complicated, good film, and I thought Bridge of Spies was excellent, and no one saw these films.
Yeah, well, you had War of the Worlds packed in between there.
Actually, the same year as Munich.
But he should be allowed to make a bad movie, too.
Yeah.
That's what made Cate Blanchett so exceptional, is that even when she makes a bad movie, you understood that.
Yeah.
Stood it. You understood why she was going down that path. You're going to have inevitably pitfalls in your filmography, right?
Yeah.
And he doesn't always make good movies. I mean, we talked about 1941, I think, at one point, and we talked about Hook, which I think's cute, in the same way I think Aladdin is. But I don't go much past that. Mm-hmm. But the fact is, the matter is somehow he got pigeonholed into this idea that he is purely a pop director, but at the same time, the films that we talked about here, Jaws isn't pop. It's really that good. Indiana Jones, we picked The Last Crusade instead of Raiders, and we talked about Minority Report in Munich, and then Schindler's List is an absolute tour de force, incredible masterpiece. It's a total masterwork. So yeah. I just don't see. I don't buy into that myth. It gets popular. It gets popular amongst handlebar mustaches over brandy in a pipe in the smoking room about how Spielberg is somehow pop. But that's a fiction. That's not reality.
And that's been really fun to look back at his whole canon. I'm missing one film of his, so maybe I'll try to catch the BFG before that episode, which I'm looking forward to. I like Roald Dahl. But until then, you all can email us at letstake5@theartofmoral.com. You can go to theartofmoral.com, where you can leave a comment on this thread to see we're going to hear what you say about Munich and all of Spielberg's films. You can find every one of our episodes has its own thread. You can follow us on Twitter at the Immortals Pod, which is a Twitter account where it shares with the other podcast at the website, which is the Immortals, which is a very silly podcast I do with some good friends where we review the 1001 movies, albums, food, songs, children's books, and TV shows you must see before you die. And the episode that came out yesterday, we reviewed the great noir film, Murder, My Sweet. Where else can we find you, Eric?
You can find me at Constant Diversion. That's my YouTube channel. I always feel like I say that so quickly. So then I say Constant Diversion.
Yes.
YouTube channel. And I just want to say thanks, everybody, we've been progressing as far as the podcast is concerned. More downloads last month and the month before that and the month before that. So it is growing. So we have an audience. It's really awesome to do this.
Yeah, thank you for listening to our not rants for a half hour.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean.
Yes. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. My name is Austin Luger.
My name's Eric Martindale.
We'll catch you all next time. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Did we accomplish anything at all? Every man we killed has been replaced by worse.
Why cut my fingernails? They'll grow back.
Did we kill to replace the terrorist leadership or the Palestinian leadership? You tell me what we've done.
You killed them for the sake of a country you now choose to abandon. The country your mother and father built, that you were born into. You killed them for Munich, for the future, for peace.
There's no peace at the end of this, no matter what you believe. You know this is true.
Here's what I know.